So same as usual, working at your own pace, making sure that nothing is causing pain or discomfort, as in joint pain. Muscular discomfort entirely up to you. If you want to stop and have a little stretch, stop and stretch. If you can keep it going, keep it going. Just making sure that you're not straining yourself, you know, overheating. You're seated, finding that comfortable seated position, but see if you can try and raise the front of the body. So see if I can prevent the body from collapsing forward and then crushing down onto the diaphragm, preventing it from moving as it should be moving. So see if I can give myself more space to breathe properly. If you're lying down, using the mat to support you from underneath. So just allowing the head to relax, the arms, the legs, the straight or bent, whichever feels more comfortable for your hips and lower back. And then focusing on the breath. See if you can notice whether the breath is coming from up here into the chest or down here into the belly. I want the breath to be coming down from the belly. So I'm going to try and soften across the front of the chest, relaxing through the neck, the throat. And then as if I was trying to guide the breath down into the belly, I'm going to take a deep breath in. I'm just going to let the belly down. And then as I breathe out, I'm just going to relax. So I'm not trying to push the belly out. I'm letting the breath do that for me. And then as you try to focus on that breath, just noticing the rest of the body. So noticing how straight do I feel? Where do I feel pressure if I'm lying down? Is the same pressure at the back of the pelvis? Is it the same pressure at the back of the hips? If I'm sitting up, do I find it the same? Do I feel the same pressure below the right, below the left seat bone? Is my head center? Is it slightly turned to one side? I'm not changing anything. I'm just noticing where everything is and how I feel to begin with. And then as I feel the breath is a little bit calmer, is a little bit more settled, then I'm going to start going into a little rotation. I'm going to start turning the head from one side to the other. From one side to the other. Starting with little movements, and then progressively, if the neck allows me to do that, I'm just going to try and see if I can go a little bit more and a little bit more. And then as usual, just noticing the difference between the right and the left side. So I might find that on the right side, I can turn easy, on the left side, feels a bit stiffer, or vice versa. On one side, I seems to be turning my shoulders as well as my head. See if you can think of just turning the head on top of the shoulder. 3, 2, 1, and coming back to center. From rotation, I'm going to go into a little lateral flexion. So it's trying to bring the right ear down to the right shoulder. I'm going to try and lengthen down the side of the neck, using my way back to the middle, and then I'm going to move the other way. Just gently mobilizing the neck, making sure that I'm not forcing, just trying to relax. And then if you feel that the stretch down the side of the neck is not too heavy, it's not too strong, I want to make it a little bit stronger, then as you bring your right ear to the right shoulder, think of reaching away with your left arm. As you bring the left ear to the left shoulder, think of reaching away with your right arm. So putting a little bit of a traction down the shoulder, feeling a little bit more stretch coming down the side. 4, 3, 2, last one. And releasing back, returning the head back to the middle, and then retesting the rotation. So I'm just going to turn one way, then the other, Hopefully it feels a little bit easier. I might even be able to turn a little bit further. I'm going to bring the head back to the center and then holding it into the center. This time I'm going to go for a little flexion extension. Imagine if you're seated, imagine the head to be resting against the wall. I'm going to push the back of my neck into the wall too. So if I'm lying down, I'll be pushing the back of my neck into the floor. So I'm just going to bring the chin into the throat as if I was trying to give myself a double chin. And then I'm going to come away and then I'm going to try and lengthen up. I'm going to try and look up as far as I feel comfortable. And then I'm going to come down. I'm going to tuck the chin. And then I'm going to lift. So trying to get a little flexion extension into the neck, making sure that same as usual, the movement is not causing pain. If you're lying down, use the mat as a reference point as I'm trying to get the back of my neck to flatten against the floor. And then I'm going to try and lift away. So I'm going to tuck the chin, I'm going to look down the chest towards the legs. And then I'm going to lift the chin. And then I'm going to try and look behind and then try it again. So think of a nice stretch going down into the back of the neck as you tuck the chin, and a nice stretch coming down the front of the throat as you look up, look back. 3, 2, last one, and releasing back, returning the head back to the middle, and then same as before, I'm going to retest my rotation. So turning the head side to side again, hopefully feels again a little bit easier. And then I'm just going to return back to the center. I'm going to repeat the same 3 directions, but this time focusing on the thoracic spine, focusing on the upper back. I'm going to start with a rotation. So I'm just going to cross the hands onto the chest if I'm seated. If I'm lying down, I can keep the arms to the front, and then I'm going to start swinging to the side. So I'm going to rotate to the right, and then I'm going to rotate to the left. So if you're seated, imagine your spine to be like a nice solid pole. I don't want to twist the pole out of shape. I just want to turn around the pole, look behind, turn around the other way, and then look behind. If you're lying down, think of rolling from one shoulder to the other. So I'm going to swing to the right, I'm going to roll over my right shoulder, swing to the left, rolling over my left shoulder. So from side to side. The hips are not going anywhere, so the hips are not lifting. I'm keeping the hips solid on the mat. 4, 3, 2, last one. And releasing back to the middle, adjusting, recentering yourself back to the middle. And then from rotation, I'm going to go into a little lateral flexion. So if you're lying down, you might want to support the head with one hand, lifting it slightly off the mat. There's a little bit more tension into the belly. And then with my other arm, I'm going to reach down the side, flex to the side, come back to the center, swap the arms, and then I'm going to reach down the other way, come back to the center, and then swap again. If you're seated, the head doesn't really need to be supported. So I'm just going to start flexing from side to side. So think of a nice gentle tension coming from the side of the belly that is allowing me the little side to side movement. I'm still looking straight forward, straight ahead. I'm not turning and looking down towards the legs. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, last one, and releasing back, releasing the shoulders, releasing the back, resetting yourself back in the middle. And then I'm just going to change the direction one more time, so going back into that little flexion extension. So think of the same that you did for the neck when you were trying to press the back of the neck and then look away. This time think of doing the same with your upper back. So I'm going to try and lift the back of the rib cage away from the mat. I'm going to extend away, and then I'm going to try and push it into the mat, and then I'm going to go forward. So if I'm seated, think of the shape of the rib cage. I'm going to try and round it, and then I'm going to try and flatten it out. I'm going to try and round it and then flatten it out. So opening up the space between the shoulders, along the back of the rib cage, and then opening up through the chest, along the breastbone as I switch directions. So see if I can try and get a little movement going through the thoracic spine. If you're lying down, exactly the same. I'm going to send the chest up to the ceiling, trying to come up into a little extension, and then I'm going to try and come forward into flexion, supporting the head, coming up into a little curl, easing back down, extend away, come back, and a little flexion, lifting the head and the shoulders off the mat if I can. 4, 3, 2, last time. And releasing back, adjusting the head, adjusting the shoulders, and then I'm going to retest the rotation. So I'm just going to start turning from one to the other side. And then again, noticing if there has been any change. So do I feel a little bit better? Does it feel stiffer? Can I go further? 3, 2, last time. And releasing back, relaxing back to the middle. So a little bit more movement into the thoracic. I'm going to try and work down into the lumbar. So trying to focus on the lower back at this time. I'm going to try and get a little torsion, a little rotation. If I'm seated, the movement is very limited. It will still have to come from the top. But if I'm lying down, I can get a nice little movement going. So if, whether you're seated or standing, I'm going to, seated or lying down, I'm going to shuffle the feet and the knees nice and close together. And then I'm going to start taking the legs over to the right. So if I'm seated, I can't really move the legs as I'm sitting on my chair, I'm sitting on my bum. So with my right hand, I'm going to pull the legs to the right, and then I'm going to try and turn the other way. Then I'm going to ease back to the middle, and then I'm going to pull the legs to the left, and then I'm going to turn to the right, and then ease back to the middle. So still encouraging a little rotation. If you're lying down, I'm just going to let the arms open up out a little bit wider, and then I'm going to start turning the hips and the legs to one side, bringing them back to the center, and turning the other way. So feeling the hips are rolling from one side to the other. The rib cage is keeping nice and still, the shoulders nice and relaxed, the jaw, the face nice and relaxed. 4. Finding a breath that works for you. Making sure that you're breathing, not holding the breath. 2. Last time. And releasing back, relaxing the hips, adjusting the hips, adjusting the legs. And then from rotation, I'm going to go into a little lateral flexion. So I'm going to go into a little hip hitch. So think of the back of the pelvis staying flat against the mat if you're lying down. And then just pulling your left hip towards the left side of the rib cage, and then the right hip to the right. So I'm going to pull up on the left, pull up on the right, pull up on the left, pull up on the right. So feeling the pelvis, so just gently swinging from side to side, and little tension into the side of the belly to create that movement. If you're seated, imagine to be lifting your seat bone off the chair. So I'm going to try and pull up on my right seat bone, drop down, pull up on the left, drop down, pull up on the right, drop down, using the arms to create a little bit more stability, a little bit more support if I need to. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and releasing back, releasing the hips, resetting the pelvis back to the middle, and then I'm going to change the direction of the movement one more time, going into a little bit of a pelvic tilt. So exactly the same as you did for the neck. Think of the lower back. I want the lower back to round. So I'm just going to tilt the pelvis back. I'm going to try and round the lower back, and then I'm going to try and lift it. So I'm going to try and flex and extend, rocking back onto the seat bones and then coming forward towards the pubic bone, rocking back onto the seat bone and then coming forward onto the pubic bone. So see if you can keep the movement down at the bottom of the spine. So I want to try and feel the bottom of the spine at the lower back, that curve changing its shape. The belly tensing to create that movement. If you're lying down, same as you did for the neck, use the mat to guide you. I'm going to tilt the pelvis back. I'm going to try and press the lower back flat against the mat. And then I'm going to come back into neutral. So I'm going to tilt and then release the tilt. Tilt and release the tilt. Every time that you tilt the pelvis back, so every time that you roll back onto the seat bones, see if you can think of corset tightening around the middle. So I'm going to try and draw in, draw up, and then relax. Draw in, draw up, and relax. 5, massaging the back of the hips, so relaxing the lower back. 4, 3, 2, last one, and releasing back, adjusting the hips, so relaxing the hips. So a little bit more movement all the way along the spine. We're going to focus on the arms. I'm going to try and start moving one arm at a time. So I'm going to raise my right arm up to the ceiling, and then I'm going to take the arm back as far back as I feel comfortable with my shoulder. Then I'm going to return the arm, and then I'm going to try the same thing to the left side. I'm not forcing, so I don't want any pain in the shoulder. So it could be a very small and very big movement. If you're seated, the arm will feel heavier as you're lifting against gravity. So I might start to small and then see how the arm feels. And then if I feel that the neck is relaxed, so I'm not stiffening and gripping tight, then I might try and see if I can lift it a little bit higher and a little bit higher each time. Picturing the top of the arm and moving into the shoulder socket. So see if you can think of the shoulder joint moving. So it's not my back arching, it's not the neck stiffening, it's just the arm moving into the shoulder socket. And then you might find that the shoulder clicks. Notice at what point along the way the shoulder is clicking. And then as you get close to that point, slow down, play with the position of the hand. See if you can find a better combination between the top of the arm and the shoulder socket to get rid of that clicking. 4, 3, 2, 1, and release and back, relaxing the shoulders, relaxing the arms. Now try with both arms at the same time. So I'm going to bring both arms up. I'm going to reach as far as I can and then coming back. Exactly the same as you did for the single arm, especially if I'm seated. I don't want to feel my neck really stiffening and tensing. So imagine to be dropping your arms into the shoulder socket, just to see if I can really try to relax the neck, relax the shoulders as the arms are coming up. 3, 2, 1, and releasing down, relaxing the shoulders, giving the shoulders a little bit of a roll, relaxing the shoulders, releasing the arms, and then changing the direction of the movement. So still working into the shoulder, but this time instead of coming up into a front raise, I'm going to go out into a lateral raise. So I'm going to swing the right arm out to the side, and then I'm going to bring it back down. I'm going to swing the left arm out to the side, and then bring it back down again. Same as you did on the front raise. With the lateral raise, it's more likely that the shoulder is going to start clicking because of the movement. So same as I did for the front raise, if it clicks, as I get close to the point where it clicks, I'm just going to play with the position of my hand. Turning the hand is going to affect the top of the arm into the shoulder socket. Again, I might be able to find a better combination and get rid of that clicking. So from one over to the other side. And then I feel that my shoulder, my left shoulder is a bit sore, so I'm just going to keep the movement smaller on that side. My right shoulder is fine, I'm going to go for a bigger movement, or vice versa. 3, 2, 1 more time on each side. And releasing down, giving the shoulders a little bit of a roll, relaxing the shoulders, relaxing the arms. And then I'm going to try one last time. I'm going to try and move both arms at the same time. So same movement. I'm going to scoop both arms around the side, bring them to the head. And then I'm going to take them back as wide as it feels comfortable for the shoulders. If one shoulder feels a little bit more restricted, I'll follow that shoulder. So both arms will be moving to that range and then come back. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and releasing down, relaxing the shoulders, releasing the arms. I'm going to give the arms a little, the shoulder a little bit of a rest, and then I'm going to work on the leg, work on the hips. So I'm going to grab hold of the ball or the pillow if I don't have the ball, towel, anything that I can just pop between the knees, so I'm not pressing one against the other. And then shuffling the feet a little bit closer together. Focus on the ball. I'm going to start squeezing with both knees into the ball. So imagine to have a balloon there. Every time I squeeze, I'm trying to pop the balloon. And then I'm just going to release the pressure and then I'm going to squeeze again. So feel the tension, or think of the tension on the inner thigh, on the inside of the leg. Those muscles tense into how we bring the legs closer, squeeze the knees closer together. And then start comparing the tension. I feel that my right side feels really strong. My left side is weaker, or it's not doing much. If I look at the legs, if I can see the legs, I can see that my right leg is moving more than my left. So I'm just going to try and see if I can focus on the side that is not responding so well, and then see if I can try and pay just a little bit more attention to that side, see if I can connect a little bit better to that side or to that leg. Same as usual, I feel that I'm almost like confused of which direction I'm supposed to be squeezing. I'm just going to use my hand. So I'm going to guide the legs to squeeze into the ball, and then I'm just going to relax. I'm going to guide to squeeze into the ball and relax. Now, as you keep the squeeze going, I want you to start focusing on your pelvic floor. Every time that you squeeze into the ball, I want you to try and think of drawing upwards. So think of your front passage, men and women, no difference. Imagine to be lifting everything up towards the inside of the body as you squeeze. And then I'm just going to let it relax. So I'm going to try and lift everything up towards the inside of the body and release. And then as you try to create that lift, it's only a little lift, it's not too heavy, too hard. See if you can be aware if you're really squeezing from your pelvic floor, or if you're only clenching your bum cheeks. So I don't want to clench my bum cheeks. I want to try and squeeze it from that front passage. I want to try and tighten and lift everything up towards the inside. And then I'm just going to let everything relax. 3, 2, last one, and release. Relaxing the legs, giving the legs a little rub, a little shake, pushing the ball, pushing the cushion to one side. I'm going to work in reverse. So what I want is to try and connect into the side of the hip this time. So I'm going to switch the ball for the band. If the band is elastic, you can tie quite tight around the legs. If the band is a strap or a belt, keep it a little bit looser so that you've got a little bit of a play. You can move the legs a little bit. It's not going to dig into the skin. So I'm just going to put a little bow, a little knot. I can even hold it with my hands to keep it in place. And then from there, I'm just going to start pushing out into the band. So the opposite to what I was doing, I want my knees to pull away from each other, and then I'm just going to bring them back together. And then exactly the same as I did when I was squeezing in, as I push out this time, see if you can be aware of the connection down the side of the leg into the side of the hip. I can see my knees. If I can see my knees, are they moving the same amount, or does it look as if one knee is going out a long way and the other one is not going anywhere? Can I try and focus on that leg? Can I see if I can balance the movement, keeping it a little bit more symmetric, right and left side? So whether I'm sitting or lying down, it doesn't matter. Making sure that you're not trying to grip with your chest, you're not tightening through the jaw, the shoulders and the arms are relaxed, the 2, 5, 4, 3, 2, and then same as you did when you were squeezing in. Now see if you can as the knees pull away from each other's, pull up from your pelvic floor. So I'm going to try and pull up from my pelvic floor and then open the knees. Am I still holding my pelvic floor? I'm going to release everything back and then try again. So I'm going to pull up, open the knees. Am I still holding? And then easing back. 3, 4, 5, 6, 2 more, 7, last one, 8, and releasing back, relaxing the hips, giving the legs a little tap, a little rub. I'm going to undo the band and then push it to one side. I'm going to change the direction of the tension. This time, instead of moving laterally, I'm going to try and move up and down. So what I want is for the front of the hip to activate. I want my hip joint to close. So focus on the same leg. So I'm going to focus on my right leg. And then same as usual, if I know that the leg is a little bit temperamental, I might just use my band to help me support the leg or help me guide that leg. And then what I want is for the right foot to lift away from the mat. So I'm going to lift the right leg and then I'm going to lower it. So see if you can picture the hip joint. So I've got the pelvis and then the femur, the leg into the hip socket. What I want is to picture that joint closing and opening again, closing and opening again. So see if I can focus on the front of the hip, the deep hip flexors. See if I can find connection to them. See if I can feel them twitching. See if I can feel them tensing to help me pick up the leg. So if I'm laying down, I'm just going to try and curl it up and put it back. It doesn't matter if I can't lift completely. As far as I'm trying, it doesn't matter if the foot doesn't lift off the floor. As far as I'm focusing on that tension. 4, 3, 2, last one, and relaxing the leg, relaxing the hip. I'm going to switch to the left side. So if I feel that I need a little support, I'm going to take the band behind that left leg, and then I'm just going to guide that left leg up into that lift, and then down, closing the hip, and then open it back, close it, and open it. And then same as we did for the inside and the outside of the leg, you might notice that one side feels better, on one side I can lift, on the other side I couldn't take the foot off the ground. It doesn't matter. I'm going to try and do as much as I can on this leg. If I need the rest, I'm going to take that rest. 4, 3, 2, last one, and releasing back, relaxing the legs, giving the hip a little bit of a rub, relaxing the front of the hip, the front of the leg. and then I'm going to reverse the effort. What I want is to try and get a bit of activation into the back of the leg, back of the bum. So I'm going to set the feet at comfortable distance. If you're seated, try to bring them just a little bit closer to the chair. And then I'm going to come forward into the legs, squeeze in with the back of the bum, and then I'm going to try and stand off the chair. And then I'm going to sit back on it. So see if you can think of lifting the seat bones just slightly off the chair. And then I'm going to drop it back down again. If I can lift higher, I might lift higher. And then controlling my way back. So going up and down. If you're lying down, think of the same. But from this position, I'm going to push down into the feet, squeeze out with my bum. I'm going to try and raise the hips up. So think of the front of the hip, this time opening as much as possible. And then I'm going to come down and close it again. So I'm going to try and open it as much as possible. And then come down and close it again. Keeping the rib cage soft and making sure there's not the back that is driving. So I'm not pushing my chest up towards my face. I'm going to try and keep the upper body as relaxed as possible. And then if you feel that the back of the leg starts feeling a little bit tight, as I feel that I'm cramping up or on the verge of a cramp, that's normally a sign that the back of the bum on that side is not doing a great job. So really focus on the bum and then almost like exaggerate the tension. So this time you could squeeze in your bum cheeks together as you drive your way up and then release it back down. 3, 2, last one. And releasing back, relaxing the hips, so releasing the legs, allowing the pelvis to reset in the middle. And then I'm going to focus on the breath. I'm going to find a comfortable position, so whether I'm seated or laying down. And then I'm going to place both hands onto the belly. What I want is 10 deep belly breath. I'm going to inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. So I'm going to take a deep breath in. I want to feel the belly expanding underneath my hands. And then as I exhale, I'm just going to let everything relax. 2, 3, 4, relaxing the neck, relaxing the throat. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Last one. Going back to your natural breath, and see if you can still keep it nice and relaxed. If you're lying down, I want you to roll over onto your side and then slowly bring yourself up into sitting. Finding your comfortable seated position. So setting the legs wherever it's easier, leaning onto something behind you if you feel that you need that support, using the hands. And then finding the seat bones, I think of the front of the body. I'm going to try and lengthen it as much as I can. So taking a deep breath in, as you breathe out, I'm going to bring the chest forward, I'm going to lift up. I'm going to look forward, I'm going to look up, I'm going to look back. And then I'm going to release and come forward. Let the chin drop, the shoulders come forward, rolling your way down. And then coming up again. Trying to lengthen, lift as much as you can. And then releasing, coming forward. And down. Last one. Extending up. Lifting as much as you can. And then easing back to the front. One hand to the belly, one hand to the back. Take your bow. Give yourself a clap on that. Any questions?